If you have a dream, chase it.
Hello, thank you for tuning in and welcome to Us Abroad. My name is Kweku Opon. I'm a Ghanaian and I live in the US, and I tell stories of successful Africans in the diaspora. By telling these stories, I hope others will find strength, inspiration, and the confidence to be able to go out to be the best that they can be wherever they find themselves. Today, I have on my show one phenomenal young man. He goes by the name Chiko Abengowe. He's from Nigeria. Some have even actually described him as a young Aliko Dangote, the Nigerian billionaire. Um, so he calls himself a dream chaser. I call him brave because throughout his story, I see a lot of bravery in it. Today, he's going to share with us. We're going to get into his life on how he turned it. He quit his day job with just $1,000 to his name and turning it into 400,000 the first year and millions in the upcoming years. My guest today is Chiko, the Dream Chaser. Chiko, thank you for coming today.
Right, that's right. Thank you for having me, man. This is exciting. Any opportunity that I get a chance to share, I welcome it. I love it. You know what I'm saying? Because there's a lot of folks out here that are looking to validate that if somebody else has done it, they can do it too as well.
Yeah, true. So tell me, how would you describe yourself?
Like you said earlier, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to describe myself, but I would describe myself really as somebody who's always chasing my potential. I believe that each and every one of us are created in the likeness of God. So God has no limits. So I do believe that we as individuals, we also don't have any limits, but we have to learn how to tap into that greatness. So every single day when I wake up, I'm always trying to tap into my greatness, which is unlimited potential. Because if we are made in the likeness and the image of God, I believe that all of us have unlimited potential that we can tap into.
Yeah, I do too. I believe we all do have unlimited potential, but a lot of people living under potential. Why do you think is the case?
People are confused.
Uh, just confusion?
People are confused. People are, you know what? People are not listening to the right folks, because think about it. If I tell you to move forward and somebody else that you value their opinion tells you to not move at all, or move backwards, you're gonna stay still. You're not gonna do anything because you're in a state of confusion. People are listening to too many different people that are not headed or in the direction that they want to head. You know what I'm saying? So I think most people do nothing because they're confused. But if they can just clear that confusion out of their head, oh my gosh, people will be a little bit more excited about where they're going and be clear in the direction that they're headed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So tell me a little bit about your background. I know you're Nigerian. I saw I listened to some of your interviews. I see that you migrated from Nigeria. Would you want to share some of your story, your culture shock experience, some expectations, disappointment, of course?
Yeah, yeah. So of course, like I've said in many of my interviews, or I was born in Nigeria. I was born in Jos. My dad was a minister, so him and my mom used to go to just different churches and minister. And I think when they were doing their ministry in Jos, that's where I was born. But we're from Abia State, so that's where my dad's from, Abia State. But I grew up in Nigeria till I was about 7 years old. My dad came to the US when I was 5. So he came here for schooling and ministry. And while he was here, he brought us over. So I was about 7 years old when I came here. But of course, coming from Nigeria to the US, it's of course, a culture shock, the whole, kids making fun of you and, just, the different expectations and I remember when I first came to the US, I don't think I knew how to even at that time really spell my name, honestly.
Oh,
You
really?
know? Yeah, no, I knew my name, but I don't think I could spell it because I remember having a little bit of a challenge spelling my name.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
yeah, which is very interesting.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, so I got made fun of that, like, hey, because his name is so long, he can't even, yeah. And you know how, the stereotypical, like, Africa has no education that people, think, at
Yeah,
that time. The kids
yeah,
fun of me. That's because they don't know anything back there. They live in the huts and bushes,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I was just like, oh man, I'm not making this look good for my fellow
yeah,
Africans.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I came here, quickly adjusted, of course. And then, went to elementary school, went to middle school here. While in middle school, when I was 13 years old, my dad passed away. So my dad passed away, and my mom, was left with, 5 kids to raise on her own, and she was
Oh,
a CNA, a nurse, not even a nurse, a certified nursing assistant, which is $12, $10 to $12 job an hour. So of course we went through, struggles that a typical American family uh, don't get a chance to experience, and I just didn't want to experience that again. So I really focused on how do I become successful, and I kept asking that question, whether it was through school. So at first, in the beginning, I just thought it was, the way I become successful is by getting good grades, graduating, going to school, and getting a good job. So I focused on that really, really well, and made 4.0, 14 semesters, 16 semesters in high school, and got the Bill Gates scholarship to go to college. Went to college, graduated, got a job. And then when I started working, I realized that working was cool, but I wasn't living to my greatest potential, and that's when I started really looking into entrepreneurship, so that way I can get my freedom but back, because I truly believe that we don't know who we are until we're free. You get what I'm saying?
until we're free. Interesting.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
don't know who you are until you're free. I believe that. And I believe that, and I realized that once I became free. I realized that certain things I thought I liked doing, I didn't. Certain people that I thought I liked hanging around, I didn't. And certain things that I valued, I didn't. So you don't really know yourself until you're free. When you're not dependent on somebody else or something else or a system or organization to pay you, uh, your true self comes out. So I made a decision at the age of 26 to leave my job with $1,000 in the bank and start my own business. And since that day, there's a lot of mistakes that I've made. There's a lot of things that I've learned. But since December 3rd, 2012, to today, I've built 3 different organizations, have over 50 employees, and this past year that just passed, we hit close to $6 million in just all the different businesses combined. So I'm
Wow,
excited about
amazing.
that. I'm excited about what's to come. And I feel like I'm just getting started, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So I'm excited.
yeah, yeah. So let's see how you did it. I mean, so you had a regular job, and then you
Yes.
say you quit. And did you have like a business plan? Did you know you're gonna set up 3 businesses? What influenced your decision? The kind of businesses you got into eventually?
Yeah. So basically, when I graduated college, I took on a recruiter job. So I was a recruiter for a healthcare staffing agency. While I was there, I enjoyed my job. I went into work. I did the best I can because I was already in this mindset of living out my greatest potential. So even at work, I was probably the best employee at work. I came in before time and I left after the time. I was giving them 110% because I didn't believe that I was working for an individual. I believed that I was working to live out my potential that God gave me. So in that pursuit, in that me trying to find myself and define myself, I was performing. So in that spirit, what happened was I started to realize, man, I can probably do this as a business. I'm so good at this that I can probably start my own business. This organization does $100 million, but I don't need $100 million to survive. I need maybe 50 to $100,000. That's the level that I could believe in at that time. So what I did, I was like, hey, you know what? Let me get some more education. Let me do my best here so that whatever I take from here, I can probably use and start my own business. I worked for that organization for 2 years, left them, and then went to another organization so I can get a different, because at the first organization, I was a recruiter. The second organization, I was more so like a staff and manager. So I got to see the ins and out about, how an organization actually hires, fires, credentials an employee. So I worked for that organization for 2 years. And at that point, I made a decision that I needed to start my own staffing agency. So, and I just did. I didn't really have a business plan, but I kind of wrote down some stuff in terms of the first year not the first year, after 5 years, I wanted to be like around like maybe $250,000 to $400,000. I remember writing that down. But I kept it very simple. I went ahead, registered my business, went to Baltimore, registered my business as an LLC, got an Gmail address, all that little simple things that you do. But the most important thing, I got on the phone. I started making phone calls. I was making phone calls from, like as soon as I got in the office. Well, I couldn't make phone calls when I got in the office because it was 6 a.m. But it was from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. I was in the office, and I was making 100 phone calls each day, just calling different prospective clients. And of course, they all said no, because sometimes they'll ask, "Hey, how long have you been in business?" And I'm like, "Hey, I just started my business." So it was a lot of no's before I got to some yeses. And I delivered on some of those yeses that made a difference. That first year, I was able to do $400,000, and I couldn't believe it, because in my business plan, quote unquote, I didn't have myself making that until 5 years later. And then in the second year, so the first year was cool. I made $400,000, but most of that revenue came from one company, a tech company that was hiring recruiters from me. But
so you had only one client at the time.
So I had one big client.
Okay.
I did $350,000 from.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So technically, I didn't really have a healthy business, So at the end of that year, that one client decides they don't want to use us anymore. Not that they don't want to use us anymore, is that the six employees that I had provided for them, they ended up hiring those employees in-house. So they didn't have any need for me anymore. But I'm glad that while I was working with them, I was picking up little small contracts and still making phone calls. Because that following year, even without that contract that was $350,000, we were able to do $800,000.
Oh, in the second year?
Yes, the second year.
Wow.
Right. So
that's 100%.
Yeah, 100% without my client. I imagine if I had them, I would have been over $1 million.
Yeah.
So I was kicking myself in the foot for that, but the third year we did go over $1 million, 1.2. So so that's kind of how it started. But in my second, in the third year, in the second year where I lost that contract and then was able to replace it with other stuff, that's also when I started thinking, hey, you know what? One business is cool, but how about you start another business just in case the first business, doesn't pan out, So, and that's where I came up with the idea of Perfect Office, where we provide affordable office spaces to entrepreneurs. So I started that in 2014. So my first company, 2012, second company, 2014. And then just most recently, 2 years ago, I started my third company, Perfect Property, property management company.
Great. So before we get into the Perfect Office and why you decided to get into that space, I'm just trying to understand what the drive was. Did someone piss you off at work that you decided to get into business for yourself?
I wanted freedom, man.
Oh no, it was just about freedom for you, right?
For me, it was about freedom and living out my potential. Because at work, I was giving them what they thought was my all. Because they were like, how are you coming into work every single day at 6 a.m. when your job we don't start paying you until 9, and you're leaving at 6 p.m. We stop paying you at 5. What's wrong with you? Then you don't want to take a raise. You come up for promotion and you pass the promotion. What's going on?
Well, you actually did that.
You said what?
You actually did that.
I did that because my strategy was never get comfortable. Right? Because I've read it so many times and I've seen it so many times where people get higher salaries and they start living up to that salary. So what I said to myself, if I plan to leave this job, I know as an entrepreneur, I'm not going to be making a lot of money to begin with. So I need to get comfortable with living with nothing, but performing at a high level. So my 4 years as an employee, I only made $30,000. $30,000.
Wow.
People still don't believe that. People think that I made a whole bunch of money, saved it, and then went and started. No, I made $30,000 for 4 years. What helped me is that 1 year and a half before I quit my job, I started focusing on side hustles, and I've always invested in the stock market, but I started taking it a little bit more serious. My condo I had bought at the time, I started renting it out on Airbnb. And then I started doing some tutoring, like math, algebra, and accounting and economics. So those things were bringing me in basically another 30,000, and then I was comfortable to leave my job, focus on my business while I was still doing those things on the side to pay for, of course, bills. Because I didn't take any salary from my business the first year.
Why Perfect Office? Because I think it's a nice business model. Who are some of your competition and all
Man,
that?
we got some really big competitors. We have Regis, and Regis is a multinational company that's been in business for more than 30 years, and they have 3,500 locations all over the world. Yeah, but most people are not familiar with them, but they've been in business for 30 years.
Yeah, I really never heard of it.
National company. They have 500 locations alone in the U.S.
Oh, okay. They're big.
Yeah, they're huge. They bring in billions of about $2 billion a year in just revenue. Yeah.
Whoa. So what made you decide to get into that space?
Well, I mean, the thing is, when I started my first company, I had a really hard time finding affordable office space. So the first place I went, they said, hey, okay, let's get your business plan. What's your revenue projection? What revenue are you doing now? Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at them like, hold on. I just quit my job last week. I don't have any business plan. I don't have any revenue. I don't have nothing. So they looked at me, they're like, oh, I'm sorry. We can't commit to a lease with your organization. You don't even exist. You don't even have customers. So how are you gonna pay this? How are you gonna pay this rent? So I looked at that situation. I was like, dang, man, but they don't know the burning desire that I have. I'm going to succeed. They're like, nah, we're sorry, we can't rent to you. Then the other place I went to, they're asking me for my business credit and things like that. Again, I haven't been in business long enough to have business credit. And then the third place I went to, they want to charge me an arm and a leg. They want to charge me $2,500 to $3,000 and sign me on a 5-year lease term. Whoa. First of all, I didn't have that type of money. Second of all, I didn't even know if my business was going to be alive 6 months from now. So why would I commit to a 5-year lease? So all of those things I kind of had in the back of my mind when I had found a space to kind of start building my business. So along the way, and I would go around, talk about my story in terms of how in 2 years I was able to do $800,000, and in 3 years, 1 mil. I would get around a lot of entrepreneurs, and it looked like most entrepreneurs had the same problem, overhead expenses, expenses. So, and rent being one of them. So I just, found a purpose in that, in terms of just, I need to figure out a way for my fellow entrepreneurs. And I consider entrepreneurs my hero. Like I wasn't a big hero type of person growing up, in terms of cartoon characters and stuff like that. So, but the way I feel about entrepreneurs is almost the same way a kid will feel about Superman. You know what I'm saying? I really honestly believe that entrepreneurs are my superheroes, because, take on the daily risk of providing solutions to everyday problems. So I was like, you know what? A lot of entrepreneurs are going out of business because they can't figure out this overhead cost, how to reduce this overhead cost, or a flexible situation that works for them. When business is good, they can upgrade, and when business is down, they can downgrade. So that's where I started sketching. I was like, you know what? Somebody needs to create something that's affordable, professional, and flexible. And if they can do that, that will be a perfect office situation. And that's how the name came about. And then I went to my current landlord, and I asked him first. I pitched the idea to him because I wanted to do it with him. But he told me, hey, your idea is great. I would love to do this with you. The only problem is most of the tenants that I have, I collect $50,000 to $100,000 a month in rent. I'm not interested in chasing $500 to $700 the time, which makes perfect sense, So I said, okay, that's not your calling, but I don't mind chasing $500, $600, $700, if it means helping entrepreneurs find affordable, professional, and flexible office space.
So what do? You just got a bit of the space and you sublet it, or?
Yeah, so basically that's what we do. We go into a situation, we rent out a whole entire floor, and then cut it up into maybe 50, 60 private offices, and then sublease it to entrepreneurs. So that's the basic of our business. But obviously there's a lot of things that go into keeping entrepreneurs happy, making sure that they're getting what they're supposed to get, creating an environment that's fun, but at the same time professional, and a lot of different things. Working with employees to make sure everybody's good, Yeah. And balancing out cash flow, and build outs, so it could get a little expensive. But I think what I did in the beginning is make sure that we were growing to the level of the profits that we were making. So we didn't overgrow in the beginning, and we're not overgrowing now, so I like that.
Yeah, good. So as an upcoming entrepreneur, right? How do you choose your team?
You don't.
You don't choose a team?
Yeah. Your team chooses themselves.
Well, how can you explain that further?
Yeah. So, because if you go around trying to choose a team, trust me, you're going to waste a lot of time. There's people you're going to bring into your job as an entrepreneur, as a leader, is to share the vision and share the dream. That's it. You can't control whether somebody else is going to take up that mantle and run like you, or as fast as you, or faster than you. You can't control that. You can't control who buys the dream. Your job is to just share the dream. You get what I'm saying? So, and as a leader, my job is to hire, my job is to hire fast. And some people say hire fast, fire fast. Or another way that I've heard it is hiring is guessing, firing is knowing. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you bring on somebody on your team, you don't know what they're actually going to do. But when you find out that what they're doing doesn't align with what your vision is, or where you're trying to head, where you all are going, at that point you let them go. But the number one person that needs to be good for the team is you. A lot of times people skip that. So I have to constantly build myself. I have to constantly be an example so that way when I have someone or when I hire someone, they're going to look at you. They're going to be like, when is Chiko getting to work? How many offices is Chiko leasing? You know, what production is he bringing to the organization? You get what I'm saying? Because for some reason, you know, employees will never think that they could do more than you. For some reason, I don't know why. Now, it takes a special person for them to really believe that they can do better or more than you. But for some reason, you know, employees are just gonna think, oh, he's the owner, he knows everything. No, I am learning just like you are, you know. And so now what you have to do if you really want your organization to grow is to challenge yourself at a level that you know that is hard, but you're gonna figure out how to do it because your employees are gonna do half of what you do.
Yeah. So what you're trying to say is be the best you can, and that sets the standard or benchmark for everyone else.
Exactly.
Yeah. It does make it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. So at what point did you decide to get into preferred properties, and how long have you had that business for?
So that's the newest baby, you know, that's the newest baby, and she's only 2 years old right now. But what made me decide to get into that as I was building perfect staffing and perfect office, I started making a little bit of money. You know, and I would, you know, I've always loved investment properties and things like that. So I would invest in, you know, getting an investment property. So when I got up to like maybe about 3 investment properties, running 2 different businesses and trying to manage that myself too as well, kind of got a little bit overwhelming. So, you know, for me, I try to solve the problems that I have. I don't try to go solve problems that somebody else has or a problem that I never dealt with. You know, my first company is solving the staffing problem, which I was experiencing and which I was working in. My second company was a problem that I had started in my first company. And now the third company that I'm running is a problem that I have. You know, it was hard for me to manage my investment property. So I figured there's other people out there that are looking for an affordable solution for managing their investment property. So for $99 a month, we manage the property owner's investment property, residential property.
Oh, residential. Okay.
So for $99 or 5%, whichever one is higher, we manage, you know, finding the tenant, maintaining the tenant, collecting the rent, kicking out the tenant if we need to, and just managing and maintaining the property and just in general. So, and since then, you know, I've acquired a total of 11 properties myself that I have. My property manager with that business, she manages that, but with that, with that, she also manages about 25 other properties of clients that we have. So the goal is to get that to 50 total that we're managing, and then parlay that into 100 total properties that we're managing.
Great. So are you still involved in the day-to-day operations of all your businesses, or they're pretty much on autopilot? And do you think at which point should an entrepreneur be able to step away from his business to get other people to give their best to it?
Never.
You say never?
Never, unless you can find someone, right, in your organization that can double your production. At that point, you step away from that task in your business, okay? So for me, I always, when I hire, I try to hire someone for a specific role. That, let's say, you know, if I start getting too busy on something that I normally do and I do it well, what I try to do is go hire someone that can do that role better than me. Now, once I see that they can do that role better than I could, I leave it alone. And then I take my energy and go focus on another task that brings in more revenue to the organization, so that now I can be able to hire someone else so I can give another role to. But you're basically, entrepreneur, you're always replacing yourself in your employees while growing revenue. Now, if you're replacing yourself and revenue is not going up, then you need to get back in there.
So let's talk about expansion and then um, uh, and a bit of the future. Do you have any plans of getting to emerging markets like in Africa? Do you have plans of expanding to Nigeria or any other place apart from
Yeah.
the US?
Yes. I
Uh-huh.
would love for us to be everywhere, you know, where you have entrepreneurs. And last I checked, you have entrepreneurs worldwide.
That's good.
So that's where I want to be. I want to be wherever my entrepreneurship friends are. So and that's the mission. That's the mission. Whatever city, whatever country, whatever continent that we can expand to, I want us to be there. And the good thing is we have competitors that are already doing that. So if they can do it, why can't we?
Yeah. If they can do it, why can't we? Um,
Exactly.
we're gonna go for a quick break, and when we get back, we're gonna get on the lighter side to get into what he does for fun and the other stuff. Thank you. Viewers, thank you very much for staying. We're gonna continue with the rest of our interview. So Chico,
Yes.
what what does an entrepreneur like you do for fun?
I mean, look, honestly, anything that's fun, man. I do. I read. I play basketball. I watch movies. And a lot of times I hang out with my team. So we do a lot of cool stuff that they come up with. Sometimes we just got back from, every year we take a trip to a different state, and we or a destination spot, and we just kind of
Oh,
stay
okay.
there for a couple of days. So we just came back from LA. We rented out this cool, amazing 10-bedroom house, and we
Oh,
were there
okay.
for five days, with the swimming pool and heated
Okay.
pool and whole bunch of stuff. And we did a lot of different cool activities in LA. But man, I believe in work hard but play harder.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's anything that's fun. I'm willing to just kind of do, because sometimes it's important to get your mind off of the daily grind of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Is it Nigerian jollof rice or Ghana jollof rice?
Hey, it doesn't matter to me as long as I'm eating.
Yeah, as long as you eat it. What
Yeah.
would be your final words to the to young folks out there who have that dream and want to do something for themselves? What would you tell them?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the most important thing is, if you have a dream, chase it. You know, most of us, we have this dream, that dream, that dream, that dream. You know what I'm saying? We have millions of dreams. But what I suggest and what I honestly encourage you to do is, if you have a dream, chase it. That's why I call myself Chiko the Dream Chaser, because I'm chasing my dreams. Most people will die with their dreams still inside of them. You get what I'm saying? The worst person to meet is the person you could have been. You get what I'm saying? If you had chased your dream. So my advice for people, because all of us, we have dreams. Even I, at this moment, I have 100 dreams inside of me. But my goal is to continue to live and chase my dreams until I die. So pick a dream and then chase it. Activate that dream, you know, and find out what you're made out of, because you have that dream for a reason. God, it's God's way of whispering to you. Dreams are God's way of whispering to you your potential. And we just got to activate it, so of course it's going to be scary. Of course you're going to be walking into something that's unknown, but you have the equipment, you have the ability, you have the know-how, you have what it takes to be able to figure out what steps you need to take and what you need to do to get that dream accomplished. So chase those dreams, man.
Yeah, good. Chase those dreams, especially while you're young, because
Yes.
when when you get older, you begin to get married, have kids. It becomes a little more difficult. So chase it while you're young.
Yeah.
make wise decisions, be disciplined, um, and then the sky is the limit. That brings us to the end of this interview. It's been very, very, very informative and insightful. I hope that you were able to pick something from this interview. Make sure you like, you share, and you subscribe to this channel for updates. Thank you very much. Thank you.